everybody? Ty here. I hope everyone's doing well. What a stretch it has been these last few days. We've been we'd been streaming for 9 days straight. It's hard to believe that we're finally reaching the end of it, and I'm very grateful. It's a beautiful sight what you see there right next to this slight risk that's just about concluded for the day here. You see the no severe weather tag here. It's one that we've been waiting on for a while. And then as we go through days 4 through 8, we don't have any slight risk or enhanced risk to deal with. There are predictability to low tags, but for the most part, I would expect those days to be on the lower end of the spectrum. We'll of course be watching them just in case there's any kind of upgrades here, but based off the model data that I've been seeing, we haven't seen anything that leads me to believe that that will continue to be the case here. Before I get into it, I just want to put into perspective just how busy these last 9 to 10 days have been. Like, the sequence has been crazy. I mean, even today, we've had pretty busy days still nonetheless. We have 41 severe reports and 3 tornadoes, including one that might be unconfirmed over here towards south of Atlanta. This was happening actually while I was at work. Well, I was well to the north of it, so of course I was safe, but still, nonetheless, pretty busy morning here across north and central Georgia, then towards south Georgia. It got pretty busy today. Over towards the Carolinas, it got pretty active as well. But if we go back to these other days here, there was yesterday. This was the last stream that we had done. We had 2 tornadoes from that, potentially a couple more, but we'll see if that ends up verifying or not based off radar data. Then we start backtracking, and this is where we start to get more and more reports here. On this day, there was 229. And here's the third. 200, then 130. We had 186 here. And then these were the big days. This was on our high risk. So we had, just looking at this stuff just kind of leaves me feeling exhausted. But yeah, it's been a wild stretch here. There's the 31st. We had another outbreak over the southeast. And really, if you think about it, I could go back even further before we can go without a severe weather report or a day with less than 10. So like I said, it's been a brutal stretch here. Shout out to everyone in the National Weather Service, everyone of the weather enthusiasts who's done their part today with contributing to the watch and warning process at all. And of course, all our storm chasers as well. Appreciate all of you. So getting into the weather pattern ahead here. As I said before, this is our storm system moving out, and then after that, we have a nice little ridge that comes in and a little bit of troughing too, which is going to leave areas east of the Mississippi here a little bit cooler than average, especially in the morning. Don't put those sweaters away just yet. I'm not expecting any winter storms of any kind over towards the region, but you might get a little surprise in the morning if you aren't paying attention to the temperatures. This is great weather to get sick by, because the other day, a lot of these areas here were getting into the some places even into the upper 80s. But this trough is going to definitely put a little bit of a flip to that as we go throughout the course of the week here. And then as we head into the weekend, we start to recover quite nicely when it comes to our temperatures here. Here's that ridging that I was talking about earlier. There will be some other storm systems in play, but the dynamics are not set up in a way to where we would have to worry about much of anything. It's a lot of colder air up here towards the northern states. And then with the way this ridge is set up, it's going to keep that Gulf moisture kind of hampered down. So we're not getting a big moisture return across this part of the U.S. here. And that's where conditions would have been most favorable if that would have been the case. So not really any instability to work with. There will still be chances for showers and storms, and unfortunately it looks like there will be some chances even towards regions that not only dealt with severe weather but significant flooding. I don't think the flood threat really has been appreciated well enough in regards to the sequence that we've had over these last 10 days, especially over towards Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri in particular. A lot of flash flood emergencies got issued throughout the entire sequence as well. Other areas over here too, like South Central Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi. A lot of these guys have dealt with some pretty significant flooding as well. So definitely not looking for more rain chances or hoping for less rain chances here. As time goes on, though, especially as we get into the start of next week, I do see potential for maybe some severe chances to come into play. We'll verify that with other model data here in a little bit. But as you can see, we begin to start getting active again as we get towards the 18th through the 20th, and then a little bit further beyond. At this range, we're kind of in no man's land, so these are just more or less looks. There's not even a real signal or trend that I can go off of at this time. And of course, we'll be keeping an eye out as we go throughout the course of the week. But as of right now, good news is not expecting much in the way of severe weather. Thank goodness. Like I said, though, we will be expecting a change in the temperatures, and you're going to actually get to see exactly what that will look like here. So when we get towards the end of this weekend, where you saw that little trough, that little bendy feature, where you see this right here, it's in the wrong color, by the way, but this right here, where you saw this feature right here, I want you to pay close attention to Friday and Saturday in particular. Right there, that's where that trough comes in. So Friday evening, Saturday morning, that's when we're going to deal with some of the coldest temperatures out here towards the deep south as a whole. And then we start to warm up from that point afterward. Our mornings get a lot better as time goes on. We're back into the 50s by the time we get towards the end of that weekend. And then as we go even further beyond, we're right back to business as usual, essentially, and even starting to get above average on our temperatures here. And that's pretty much going to be the trend across the board. So basically, in regards to the entire country, we start out with a trend that's called a positive PNA, where it's warmer out towards the west and cooler out towards the east. And then we kind of look like we're shifting back into a negative PNA, which is basically the inverse, where we're dealing with cooler than average temperatures potentially out towards the west and warmer than average temperatures out towards the east. Typical look for a neutral Enso pattern for the US as a whole here. One that, as of right now, isn't going to be causing too much in the way of trouble. Now, another way that we look for severe weather setups is, of course, by looking at the dew points. Wherever we see the moisture return from the Gulf typically is a point of interest. Now, again, this is kind of a signal that you can go off of whenever you see a trough coming in. Watch what happens to this moisture. You see a brief little return pop up here. This may lead to a low end threat maybe for Friday. But once that trough moves in, look what happens to all of that moisture. It retreats back into the Gulf here. And it's not really until the 13th and into the 14th where we start to see returns coming back into play here. And even so, they're still relatively hampered. So until we get a bigger storm system, which looks like it occurs maybe on the 16th, I'm not expecting much in the way of high-end severe weather potential. Even with the 16th setup, it's still kind of questionable at this point. This is probably going to be the first day that I'm going to be looking at really closely after the 10-day range. One thing that I do also want to make clear, though, is even if it's a low-end day, it only takes one big storm to make a world of difference. You don't have to have a whole outbreak to make headlines here, unfortunately. So even if you still end up being under like a marginal risk or slight risk, you still should pay attention to it. Just thought I'd clarify that on here. And then if we look through our surface-based cape, this is the way we measure our instability here, or one of the ways that we do. But the way we're looking right now, it looks like until the 14th, we don't really see anything robust in the way of instability. And of course, as we go further out in the range, there's a lot less certainty as well. So a lot can change with that system as well as we go from the 14th and beyond. But in the short term, though, if I were to go ahead and refresh this to the point where we're looking at, okay, maybe 11th, there's a little sector right here that I would watch a little closer. But beyond that point, look at how little instability we have to work with. Typically with severe weather, you look at the legend here, once we get to about 1,000 joules per kilogram, I start paying even closer attention to it, because that would be more than sufficient enough for severe weather. And like I said, for the most part, the picture stays relatively clear until the 13th and the 14th. More robust signals start to come in a little bit later down the line here, particularly with this one right here in the 16th, as we mentioned before. But outside of that, I'm not really too concerned in the short term with severe weather. So Very well deserved break. It was very unfortunate what we had happen in general here. But again, as I mentioned before, even though severe chances are a little low, we're still going to be dealing with precipitation here. And unfortunately, some of this is going to be going over areas that were affected heavily by severe weather and flooding as a whole. Particularly, it looks like it's going to be a Thursday afternoon, maybe Thursday night type of deal. But this is thankfully going to be a quick mover, so this will keep rainfall totals pretty low. Out towards the mountain northwest, we have chances for snow as well. And another interesting thing I'm kind of keeping an eye on over here towards the southwest is I've been seeing a couple low pressure areas coming into play. If we can get a little bit of moisture with that, there may be some rain chances over there, which would be good news for these guys as well, because drought has been a big factor already this year. So a little bit of relief would be nice over towards these regions, and there's some of that moisture that we were talking about. Here's where we start to see a little bit more robust storm systems starting to take shape here, and the pattern's starting to get more active as we get towards the end of this run here and getting towards the end of the month as a whole. So still keeping an eye on things as we go forward here, but like I said, the picture in the short term over the rest of this week looks pretty daggone good, if I were to say so myself. Here's a final look at what those rainfall totals could be like. We're going at this day by day here. Here's the legend for you to see just how significant the impacts will be. Anything that's past that purple color here would be about an inch or greater, maybe up to about an inch and a half possibly over towards my area even. And then a little bit of action over here towards the northeast, but these guys haven't had a whole lot in the way of rainfall, so it won't really bother them as much. So we go further along here, this is where we start to see those more robust signals with those stronger storm systems. Obviously at this range it's still variable, but unfortunately, again, as I mentioned before, this looks like we're going to see this over areas that have already seen more than their fair share of severe weather and flooding as a whole. So definitely need to be paying attention to that still, regardless of whether you end up getting a low end or higher end severe day or not. But that's all I got for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know what your experience was like over the last 10 days with the weather. And also, if you have any thoughts in particular about this upcoming pattern, feel free to let me know in the comments. That being said, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Monday. We'll have a video out for you tomorrow. Till then, everyone, take care and have a wonderful rest of your night.